Do we need to hear from them on what these details are?
They don't want to give them because all it does is open up a target for the Democrats to hit. And there's another component to the whole tax reform thing we're talking about here, which is the market-based side of it, which is dividends, which is the capital gains tax. And they don't take into account that the economy could change over time. Every time Barack Obama says $5 trillion tax cut, he's looking at a 10-year projection based upon numbers favorable to his point of view today and extrapolating those over a decade. Now, we all know that that's not going to be the case. There's going to be changes in the economy. There's going to be changes in growth. And when you're talking about capital gains, this is the key point here. You allow for growth with the Romney plan. You allow for the economy to expand, therefore adding to this.
That's all fair, Buck. And I want to talk about economic growth tonight, but I really want to take a poll at this table. Do you guys think it is appropriate for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan to withhold the details of their tax plan until after they are elected?
Yes, and it's totally a political answer. And let's face it, we're in the middle of a campaign, and Mitt Romney wants to win the election. And a lot of people want him to win that election. And we've watched over the course of several months, even when Mitt Romney puts out all the facts on something, the Obama people still lie about it. This $5 trillion number that Buck just brought up has been repeatedly debunked by independent fact checkers. Even Stephanie Cutter from Barack Obama's own campaign was browbeaten into admitting that it was false on CNN, and yet they're still running ads making the exact same debunked claim. So why feed a bunch of bad actors, bad faith actors, more information with which they can kind of lie and deceive voters? I don't think
Amy, do you guys agree with that?
Guy's absolutely right. And I started months ago saying I want more specifics from Mitt Romney. But as I've seen this campaign go on, I've had a second thoughts about this, because any plan he puts forward, the Obama campaign maligns as being good for the top 1%, whether it is or not, and lies about it. But my question about this particular issue, the loophole issue, why would Romney say, okay, we're going to put out we're going to give voters this nugget. We're going to tell them that we're going to close loopholes. And that is going to sound so sexy and so great to so many voters that even when they ask us what the details are, we're not going to have to give any. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's not that sexy a campaign pledge. Isn't it possible that they've just decided we can do this? We'll show them how, but now is not the time.
I think it's just that the Romney campaign is making the case that you have to trust them, that in principle they actually want to balance the deficits. I actually went back and watched some of the town hall debate that McCain had with Barack Obama today. I watched most of it, and it's amazing how little in terms of specifics. We're just going to have independent energy. We're just going to reform the economy. We're just going to have the middle class doing better. No specifics. The media wasn't hammering him day after day and tell us everything you're going to do. There should be some degree of leeway allowed here if we're going to be fair, which the media is not going to do. Right. But the Romney plan, again, there are components of it that, one, they're just making assumptions about what the long-term cost of it would be to the deficit, and the other side of it is that there's a growth component that the Democrats just fundamentally do not believe in.
Which is actually the details. Those are the details I want to hear about. I'm not very moved by this whole idea about closing loopholes and this and that, and that for some reason it has to be revenue neutral because we need the size of government to remain precisely where it is right now, the status quo. I would like to see government actually shrink. But the side of Mitt Romney's tax plan that does interest me is how cutting taxes could actually help spur entrepreneurship and growth and help spur the economy.
Let's talk about that.
That's where I want to see.
Let's talk about that. Buck brought up economic growth a minute ago. As a side note, interesting story this week coming out of France, by the way. They've decided they would like to raise capital gains tax rates, double them, in fact, to 60%. And a group of entrepreneurs in that country, pigeons, who chose a very manly name to stage their protest with, I would suggest to you, laid pigeons, even better.
There are many of them in Paris. I think that's the point.
It started some kind of grassroots social media protest and has apparently made the French government rethink this proposal. While we don't have such a drastic debate going on in this country over capital gains, we do have the flip side of our tax debate. That's President Obama's proposal to let the Bush tax cuts expire on the wealthiest. And I want to play a clip, if I can, really quickly from the debate where Mitt Romney talks with President Obama about raising taxes on those top payers.
Mr. President, you're absolutely right, which is that with regards to 97% of the businesses are not taxed at the 35% tax rate. They're taxed at a lower rate. But those businesses that are in the last 3% of businesses happen to employ half of all the people who work in small business. Those are the businesses that employ 1/4 of all the workers in America. And your plan is to take their tax rate from 35% to 40%.
Now, what Mitt Romney's addressing there is President Obama's response that 97% of small businesses pay at a lower rate than the one he's proposing raising. And Mitt Romney's saying, look, that 3% you're talking about that is dismissing kind of easily, they employ over half of small business employees in this country and a quarter of all employees. I want to bring in a tax policy expert, Dan Mitchell. He's an economist. He's a top expert on tax reform and supply-side tax policy. He's also a senior fellow at the Cato Institute. Dan, you with me?
I'm here.
Dan, you heard this debate between President Obama and Mitt Romney regarding growth, economic growth, and what taxes' effect is on economic growth. Do you think, let's focus in on President Obama's tax proposals to the extent that we know them right now. We know that he wants to allow the top rate to go up on the highest earners. Do you suggest, as Mitt Romney, that would have a huge disincentive on job growth and economic growth in this country?
There's no question it would have some negative effect. Now, he's not as crazy as that guy Hollande in France who wants to raise the top tax rate to 75%, but going from 35 to 40 is not trivial. It's not insignificant. You're going to be penalizing the very people that we need to create jobs and make the economy more competitive. So it's not good news, and he's not offsetting it. At least when Bill Clinton raised tax rates in the 1990s, he offset the damage of that policy with deregulation, welfare reform, reducing the burden of government spending by 4 percentage points. So there were lots of good things in the 1990s to offset the higher tax rate. Obama, he wants the higher tax rate, but then he wants to compound the damage with more spending, more regulation, more government intervention. It's not a pretty picture.